Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today I have something slightly different for you. In a couple of weeks, the motorcycle club season will start here. So I'm getting my bike ready for the long ride, hopefully this summer. Unfortunately, winter killed the battery on my on Scarlet, my BMW F650 GS. It also killed the battery on my Land Rover Discovery. So I've had to order some new ones. While I'm waiting, I thought I'd get in the mood by watching some classic motorcycle films. So I've made a top 10 list. Now I know there is always arguments about which films should be on the list and which shouldn't. Everyone has their personal preference. But for me, the whole point of a motorcycle film is that it shows the spirit of riding. For me, riding a motorbike is an integral aspect of individuality and self-reliance. There is a reason they're called iron steeds or iron horses, because it really brings you back to a time when people rode horses. It's about freedom. When I ride, I get this zen-like state about being at one with my surroundings. When you're in a car, you see the countryside go past like it's on some form of television. You're enclosed in a box. But on a motorbike, you're part of the landscape. You see it and you smell it, you feel it, especially the weather, and it really gives you that sense of freedom. So hopefully you'll check out some of these films and TV series I recommend. If you have other suggestions, please write them in the comments, because I know people will disagree with many of them. As always, be free.
Many famous people and events are connected to motorcycles. Sometimes they even change the world. T.E. Lawrence of Arabia, created the modern Arabian world and died on his beloved Brough Superior motorbike. Bob Dylan, voice of a generation, rode a 1964 Triumph Tiger 100 before having a bad accident on it. And Clark Gable rode a 1934 Harley Davidson RL, not the bike shown in the pic. Directed by Sandy Harbert and starring Derek Barnes, Sandy Harbert and Hugh Keys-Byrne. This film is about the fictional Australian bikie club, the Gravediggers, and is generally perceived as a classic by many bikers. Now, the 2017 film 1%, or The Outlaws, directed by Stephen McCallum, should have replaced this in the top 10, and everyone was eagerly awaiting it. But that just went way off the deep end in the wrong direction, and made bikers look bad for all the wrong reasons. I mean, seriously. WTF. I don't want to see that shit. Thankfully, Australia still has both Stone and Mad Max. Directed by Damon and Eric Ristow and starring David Aykroyd. This could have been a superb film which became a classic, but it sort of loses itself in a Wild Hog way. The premise is amazing though. Having the perfect job, visiting obscure country bars to write reviews on them whilst riding a vintage motorcycle. And he manages to screw that up, get fired and get dumped. Like any good biker would. Directed by Michael McGowan and starring Joshua Jackson and Liane Balaban, this is quite a depressing true story, but it really answers the question. If you were given only a short time to live, what would you do? Well, Instead of going into hospital to get chemo and ultimately die there, the main character decides to ride across Canada to the coast on an old Norton. Directed by Zach Kaufman and Scott Dilala, and starring the motorcycle club The Sinners and their friends. They've made many other excellent films which I recommend watching, especially if you're into choppers, bobbers and customs. Created by Kurt Sutter and starring Charlie Hunnam, Katie Segal and Ron Perlman. Sons of Anarchy spawned an entire new generation of motorcycle club prospects. Please don't wear the Sons of Anarchy colours outside your own home, or you may find yourself dealing with real motorcycle club patch holders who won't take kindly to it. For information regarding patch wearing, and Sons of Anarchy patches in particular, check out Dibber in the Wind's YouTube channel. Directed by Frank Rodham and starring Phil Daniels, Toyah and Sting. Very loosely based on the Mods vs Rockers battle at Brighton in the UK in May 1964. The soundtrack by The Who is a classic. Directed by and starring Austin Vince along with his 5 friends who travelled around the world on motorbikes in 1995 and 1996, often classed as the first motorcycle adventure film. Directed by Walter Salles, starring Gael Garcia Bernal and Rodrigo de la Serna as Che Guevara and his friend Alberto Granado on their famous road trip from Argentina to the Amazon. Directed by Laszlo Benedek and starring Marlon Brando and Lee Marvin. Very loosely based on the 1947 Hollister incident, which led, due to a press comment, to the creation of One Percenters. This is how different actors were back in the day. Just as James Dean raced cars and bikes, and Steve McQueen did most of his own stunts in The Great Escape, Marlon Brando rides his own bike and does his own stunts in The Wild One. Really cool bloke. Directed by Dennis Hopper and starring Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper and Jack Nicholson. It has one of the best soundtracks ever made. The pinnacle and conclusion of the hippie era. It showed both the good and the bad sides, and also the non-hippie world's perception of both them and bikers. This starred Angie Everhart and some bloke on a bike, and it changed advertising forever. It also created a new generation of motorcycle enthusiasts, as it got to the very heart of the rebellious soul of the motorcycle rider. And the use of Steve Miliband's The Joker was just outstanding. I'd say that advert really influenced me also, as at that time I was riding round on my MZ50 or AR80